Let's get started. So I'm Linda Hayes. I'm IJK Partners. I'm the former, used to own Inn at Riverbend, which we designed and built in the Appalachian Mountains. My husband and I left Miami. We left corporate America and we moved to Virginia and designed and built our inn. We also had a restaurant. We're in a county of 15,000 people. So it's a relatively small county. We're the only B&B and still pretty much the only B&B that was overlooking the Appalachian Mountains and the New River. So really worked on destination tourism and, trying to do everything we could. And again, because we built it, it was putting all those procedures and policies in place. We also bought a restaurant in town and we renovated it and called the Bank Food and Drink, and we owned it for 10 years, operated it for the last 5, leased it for the first 5. So I have a pretty diverse background. Partly I'm an interior design by schooling from my first career. And so all of that merges together for the consulting work that I do. So today, because most of my consulting work is operational, and before COVID shut down, I was visiting some properties, helping people that are owner investors or owner operators with opening up their new properties or rebranding, all those kinds of things. So I travel a lot. I've been to 62 properties in the last 2 years. So while I'm not an inn owner, I am a guest. And I see a lot of different things that I'm not always sure that everyone else sees. And my last presentation was on staycations, and staying at your inn. Did I need to stop for a second? Did someone ask a question? Okay. So with that, let's jump into this. I want to be able to talk a little bit about what I want to offer you today, or some exercises to think about. All of us are overlapping a little bit with content. So today I want to talk a little bit about your visuals, what you're saying to your guests about your current situation, what the arrival process is, because it needs to change. Your food and beverage obviously needs to change as far as how you offer it, and what are best practices with your staff. So here's, how are you communicating your current status? And I've gone through and looked at a bunch of websites, and I love this one. This is Laurel Oak down in Gainesville. They've just gotten permission to open. So what popped up yesterday was this yellow line on their website that really caught my attention.
Oh. Okay, and, good. It's starting to again.
And okay, I don't know who's talking, but
no, it takes a while.
Okay, can someone who's talking please mute your? Oh, I can mute all. But okay, so anyway, they've got this this very clear message up that says, here's what's going on, we are open. And then on Facebook, you can see the posting that she posted yesterday morning just to announce that they're open. So when I go through and I think about being a guest right now that's desperately looking for that getaway, maybe it's time to reconnect with your family members because you haven't been able to hug or see them, or some close friends, or you need some kind of a getaway. What are you looking for when you look at a property? Well, I'm certainly looking for status. I want to know that they're open. I want to know that they're cognizant of what's going on. And all of that is key. If you're taking pictures, please know that this handout will be available. Eric's already got it, so you'll be able to download everything. Are your photos current? And I think, as Dirk just said, if you sat in his session, it's probably okay if you're of maybe cleaning, maybe you've got a mask, maybe you've got gloves on, and to have something, whether it's on your social media or on something that you're quickly updating. Your photographs being current. I realize right now you're not going to bring in maybe your favorite room photographer or inn photographer that you used in the past, but I think for the sake of this, if you were taking some pictures and you were going ahead and swapping out and updating, it's important that you're not showing all those decorative pillows. I was at a property in November that was a new owner, and we put 65 pillows down the laundry chute. Okay, they need to go. That look needs to change. Do you have a COVID statement about your cleanliness practices? Some people do. It's a pop-up that might show up. It's somewhere maybe in your policies, but it's fairly apparent. And I would work with your webmaster or make sure that you've got some wording up there that says what you're doing that's different. Imagine if you're trying to find an inn right now and you don't find any of this information. To me, kind of as Scott was saying earlier, they look old. So I really encourage that you go ahead and do these little things quickly. Let me advance. So now the other thing is, I want you to look at your landing page. This is actually from a client of mine who is working on a new website, but is your TripAdvisor badge current? So interesting when you see a TripAdvisor badge that's from 2016, 4 years ago. What does that say about how you care about your property? Are you all still showing links to bedandbreakfast.com? If you're not a member of Expedia, where does that link go? If you are part of, you're obviously here, you know, part of ALP. If you show the logo for one of the associations on your site, is it the current one? So again, all these little details are so important because I think they show that you're tuned into your business and you're keeping it current. This is currently on this in site. So imagine, it's really nice they were in travel and leisure in 2014, but that's 6 years ago. Analogy that I learned in corporate America, which I'll share with you, is when you get on the plane, and now it will be different when we get on a plane, but if you get on the plane and you lower the tray table and it's dirty, do you wonder how clean the engine is? So that's a little bit of what I'm saying is people are looking at your site. So they're comparing you to someplace else, and I just want to make sure that you've got best foot forward. So think about those things. Now, first impression. So now we're at your inn. Uh-oh, I have a picture that's not loading. I apologize. Let me go back. I have a photo that's not loading. I'm sorry. It loaded a little bit ago. This was really just a beautiful front entry. So I really do encourage that all of you walk in the front door of your inn. You know, is that hardware shiny? Is the paint fresh? Is the walkway clean? Does everything look, you know, you're just starting to put fresh flowers out if you're getting ready to open. But are you best practices all the way around? I can't mute everybody, but anyway, when guests walk in the door, what are they going to smell? What are they going to hear? Are you going to have lovely music on? We need to be soothing. We need to be relaxing for what our guests are going to be able to have. Here's the thing that's so important.
Okay, how are you?
I really want to mute. Hold on. I'm going to mute. There we go. Thanks. Sorry. What's going to happen with your greeting? So if you've got returning guests, what's our natural instinct? It's to hug them. It's at least a handshake. I think you need to practice this because that instinct is going to be so hard to open the door and not be able to hug people, not be able to embrace them in the way you would have. And I really do think you have to think about this. This picture on the right, I wanted to put a big red X for it because right now we're not going to do that. So really work on that with your staff. Rethink your tour. What are you going to need to show your returning guests? Those that know you well. You've probably changed things. There are things that are probably not in the same place as they used to before. So remember that it's not business as usual and you have made some important changes and you need to be able to show them all that. What's going to happen when you show them the guest pantry, or do you have a self-service area? I don't know that we're going to have the cookie jar there. You know, they're going to reach their hand in. Lots of things that are going to change. Are you putting out a pitcher of tea? Are you putting out lemonade? What do you have in the room? Do you have a snack basket possibly? You know, is it a property that has a snack basket with fresh fruit? Well, if the guest doesn't take it all, what do you do with that? You know, you hate to waste it if it's packaged. What are you going to do with an apple that's been set out? You're going to throw it away? You're going to sanitize it? What are you going to do? Should you possibly, if you're offering something to the guests, maybe give it to them in a bag or a tote that you want them to take it with them? It's snacks for the road. It's snacks for them to enjoy, but maybe you put it in a bag and it's got a bow and it's a note or something and you know that it's personally for them. So think about all those things. What are you going to do with your in-room beverages? Is there things you have to worry about? Are there sanitation things you have to think about when the guest checks out? How much of that did they touch? What did they do? You know, so there's a lot of practices that I think are a little bit different that have to be considered. The dining area. Okay, I'm sorry about pictures not loading because this is strange. They were perfectly fine. Do you have a community table? This has been talked about a lot. That image on the right, you know, is an awful lot of people sitting at the table, and that's very typical in some inns. They're all drinking beer. We probably need to do that in the morning right now, but we're not going to do that. So you're going to stagger times. You're going to serve breakfast to the room if you can. You saw some of the stats earlier that Scott presented. Maybe there's some rearranging of furniture. Maybe you're going to take living room areas and move some seating in there. Fortunately, many of us are opening up and the weather will be warm, so we can encourage outdoor seating. Look at your front porches. Are those perfect places to be able to offer breakfast versus, you know, and the back porch and the patio? Maybe you're going to put reserve signs. Maybe you're going to determine where people are going to sit. It's a lot of changes, and we're well beyond. I'm not even talking about your cleanliness and your sanitation, just some things that you have to do here. What time will you serve breakfast? Does that change? How will you change your service bar? You know, will you put juice out and everyone can pour it themselves? Will you put maybe your first course or breads out and they're going to serve themselves? You know, what are you doing? There's a lot of things there that I really hope that you'll think about. I'm not trying to present you with all the answers. Y'all are bright people and innkeepers, and we all know, you know, we can do this. But again, it's those things right now that we're not, unless you're open, and 53% of you are not, you don't have these areas necessarily set up. You're not walking a guest in the door. So I want you to be ready when it's the first time to do that. And then lastly, here's some things that I really think is important. Pull your team. It might just be you and your partner, you and your spouse, but if you've got a few more people in your team, it's time to pull everyone together. I really think together to walk through all these different areas and talk about cognizantly what's going to change. Create new checklists, work together to discuss everything, and really agree so that you're talking about why you're doing this and why it's important, so everyone's on the same page. And I think to do this as a team gives you some really good time to connect and think about what has to be done. The other thing too, we used to always try to get any of our cleaning done between tenant checkout and check-in, or when guests are out of the inn. I certainly think right now it's okay that guests see that you're at the front door and you're cleaning the door handle, the doorknob, any of those things, surfaces that they're commonly in. I think those are good practices because they show your care. The other tools that I wanted to share with you are some tools at the bottom that here's the new Stay Safe guidelines that people were chatting about this morning. Tersano is a method of sanitizing that's chemical free. So this is a nice link that you can look at. There's a property in Calistoga, the Francis House, that put this system in when they opened 2.5 years ago. And there are chemical cartridges, so this works with water and oxygen and becomes a really nice way to clean all your surfaces. She even uses the water then to water her plants. So that's a very good product. I have another client who's ordered it also. And what's important about Tersano is that hospitals in Wuhan, China, ordered this product after they realized they had a problem. It's used at colleges, used at Stanford, used at airports. So it's another method that you might want to look at. It could be something you're either buying the individual portions of it or you're connecting it with your water system. Another source, because many people have been asking about sources, is Pineapple Hospitality. I don't know if any of you have worked with Ray Berger, who's got a business in Missouri, and he's got a very nice COVID-19 page on his site offering face masks in bulk. Some of them are reusable, disposable, different kinds of masks, infrared thermometers, the ones that we're all hearing about, bulk sanitizers, even little individual packs that you could put together a kit to give to your guest, sanitizer dispensers, all different kinds of things. I wanted to give you a link to that page so you would have a source for maybe some things that you haven't seen. Some people also asked me about sources for wipe dispensers that were nice looking. These might be a little bit big. There are some range of sizes, but at least I want you to have that. So these are some sources that I wanted to share with you. And again, if some of you are taking images, pictures of this, otherwise it will be in, I've downloaded all of this for Eric and it will be posted so you'll have access to this. Okay, so I'm going to flip to my last screen and then we can certainly do some questions and I'll unmute everybody. And so I really hope that you'll think about what are you going to do right now to make a difference? You know, how are things going to be different as you move forward?
Write it down. So,
okay. So do I have some questions? You guys can just, you know, take a peek and, you know, I mean, just help with a question here. Let me know what I can respond to right now. I don't know that I'm seeing any questions that have been posted. So if anyone has anything, wants to chime in.
I know that there's a lot of electronic keys, but we're a small 4-bedroom, and it was built in 1830, and we use keys in the rooms as well as in the front door.
Right.
And I'm still toying with the idea of what do we do? Do we sanitize them? Do we change the electronic key system, etc.? Any suggestions?
I'm certainly seeing an uptick in people going to keyless systems. There's a number of ones out there. I've just had to do some referral to a client on a couple of ones there. But otherwise, it's sanitizing keys. Maybe you want to put your key into something so that when you give it to a guest, you're giving it in a bag and you tell them it was sanitized. So that could be a real easy, quick solution right now that you could do as a 4-room in rather than changing everything.
that's what I was thinking. If you got little bags that have a little.
All right. Anyone else have some questions right now that we can?
And we know that it's been sanitized.
Can I ask a question, Linda? This is Donna.
Hey, Donna.
So it's kind of going along the lines with what Allison and Scott talked about and having to lower rates and what you're talking about in adjusting breakfast service. And one of the things that we're looking at is downgrading our breakfast service because it's going to be far too, at least initially, because it's going to be far too complicated for us to redo our property, you know, buy all the new supplies. Our rooms just don't really have the capacity to do, all of our rooms don't have the capacity to do in-room service. So even if we were to go that route, it would be this room, but not that room. So we're thinking of downgrading and just doing like coffee and pastry delivery only to the rooms, and then passing those savings on to the guests at a lower price point. I just, from your experience, I just didn't know if you had any thought from a guest perspective on that, if that's going to be, I mean, I have no idea how it's going to be taken.
Yeah, I'm seeing properties doing a variety of things. Some of them are doing something that they can actually offer to the guests. Not everyone really wants a full breakfast. So some of them are even doing things that almost like our to-go breakfast. So I used to have corporate guests and I did a good to-go. They're asking what time they'd want it. So they're giving them a little bit more than just coffee and maybe a pastry, but they're adding some fresh fruit. They're adding yogurt that's individually packaged. I know of a property that has a great little restaurant that's going to be open across the street. And it's got outdoor seating. So they're giving them a coupon to that restaurant and including that. Or, you know, I think you have to look at your area, and if guests do want breakfast, what are they going to do? And if anyone else wants to chime in here, that's great, and share what you might do.
I mean, you should serve breakfast. I don't.
Lucy, I see you're on. What are you doing out in California as far as breakfast?
I have to laugh a little bit. One of the Zooms I was on yesterday with another group, there was a guy sitting there picking his nose.
Someone's chatting in the background. I'm sorry, this is hard.
Yeah, it is tough.
I just, you know, I want you to know that.
Linda, that's actually Twyla in her session. I'm wondering what this.
That is Twyla, because that's interesting. I'm on my own Zoom account. I did not tap into the association Zoom.
But I hear, it sounds like Twyla, and I keep hearing the words like linens and towels, so I'm assuming it's her.
I think one of the viewers is listening to something in the background as well, and it's just because they're unmuted, it's showing up.
Yeah, they're listening.
That would do it, yep.
Okay, that would do it. All right. Well, anyway, any other questions? We've got about a minute. Certainly email me. You've got my contact information here, my website, my phone number. I'm happy to help anybody. Lucy has posted, she's going to talk about she said they're going to offer 3 different choices according to the guest comfort level. This is uncharted territories. Ask the question, ask your guests. Maybe when they're making a reservation, you're going to call them and say, gosh, are you guys big breakfast eaters? You know, how can we work together on this? I think, well, yeah, they want it away. And they're looking forward to seeing family and seeing friends and celebrating. All right. Thank you all. Appreciate you dropping in. It's great.
Thank you.
To see some
Thank
people.
you.
Well, nice. I know you got to see more than just a couple of people. So it's good. You've got a little bit of a group now, and appreciate all of you joining. Well, I'm going to get started just so that appreciate you guys stopping in this virtual workplace. I hope they're all working well. I've got about like to have a 20-minute discussion with you so that you can pop out or ask questions at the end and move on. But I wanted to share a little bit of practicum today. So I'm a former innkeeper. My husband and I moved from Miami in 2003. We designed and built our inn and opened it up in 2003 and sold it in 2010. So we used to own Inn at Riverbend, which is a beautiful 7-room inn overlooking the Appalachian Mountains and the New River. We also bought an old building in downtown and opened up the Bank Food and Drink, which was a restaurant. We leased it for 5 years to a chef, and then we operated it ourselves after we owned the inn. But we sold those things, but I've been doing consulting work for the last 10, 11 years. I'm also on the board of ALP, used to be on the board of AIHP. So I'm thrilled to be here today and testing a new format of delivering content. My consulting work primarily is operational, and typically in the last 2 years, I guess I've visited 62 properties in 18 states and 3 countries. So while I'm not an owner anymore, I certainly am a guest at your properties, and I see a lot of things that sometimes you guys haven't seen. So I wanted to share some practical things with you today. Some of this overlaps content that we've heard throughout the day already, but it's a little bit different because some of the things we're going to talk about you haven't really been able to practice yet because you might not be open. So if we look at some things to consider is certainly visuals. What are you saying about your current situation? What's that arrival process going to be? Hugs right now we can't do, so things are going to change. What's changing with your food and beverage? And then how do you work with your staff? So let's jump in. What I'm going to do is try to hold questions maybe till the end because that would be the best, and that way we can just get all this done. So what's your current status? And I think this is really important. If you look at the images that I put on here, the yellow bar, yes, we are open, just popped up on Laurel Oaks Properties website yesterday. So they found they're going to open. They're going to open up 25% of their occupancy will be able to open to follow the guidelines in Florida. And then you can see the message that they post on Facebook. So they're really clearly communicating to their past guests that know their Facebook page and follow them that, gosh, they're open and they're taking reservations. And they're communicating very clearly on their website what they're doing. So if you're not doing this, if I were looking for a getaway, I would say, gosh, I don't know that I would feel like you might be tone deaf to what's going on right now, that you're not maintaining your status of your property. So I think it's real important that you look at whether you have a pop-up message, and a lot of people do. There's a pop-up that shows up in the middle of the box when I click that just says, here's what's going on, here's our status, we're pending what's going on with the state. Whatever that is, it's real important. And I'm amazed how many of you, and I don't mean you, meaning those of you on the group right here, but when I look at member ins, I don't see anything, which says to me you're closed, you're not current. Are your photos current? Boy, we certainly were hearing if you were in Dirk's session, everyone's, it's really time, if you haven't gotten rid of the pillows, the decorative pillows and the quilts, that you need to do that. I know right now is not the best time to bring in one of the professional photographers, but I would encourage that you might take some of your own photos or have a statement about what's changed, so that if I'm looking at your rooms, I'm seeing something a little bit different. I know that you're caring about what you're doing and you're showing it. Maybe you have a COVID-19 statement that talks about how your cleaning practices have changed. It might be showing even some images of hands with gloves on them. So all of those are important. If I'm picking your inn for my getaway, how do I make sure that you're really cognizant and effective about what's going on? So just some visuals. What are you saying? And then look at your landing page. I'm amazed how many properties, and this is coming from a property who I actually work with, and they're in the midst of redoing their websites, an owner who recently bought this in, but their TripAdvisor badge is from 2016, that's 4 years ago. You know, their travel and leisure, which was a nice accolade, 6 years ago, 2014. They still have the bedandbreakfast.com diamond collection, which is no longer, and that link, unless you're an Expedia participant, that link is going to a list of other inns. It's not going to your property. So when I look at all this, again, it shows me you're not tuned in. You're not relevant. You're not current right now. You're not paying attention to these things. How does that make you feel? My old analogy used to be if I got on the airplane and the tray table was dirty in front of me, what was the condition of the engine? So these are all the little signs that someone might be looking at. So think about this. If you're here and you're a member of ALP, and if you have logos for the association on your site, have you changed it? We've been sending out those notices, giving you the new graphics in our newsletter, so make sure that you go ahead and update that if you're still showing AIHP or PI. So just some thoughts, and I really think, look through and think about if you're trying to book that first getaway, how are you going to pick that in? What are you looking for that makes you feel comfortable? So here's another exercise. Now, how's the arrival process going to change? And I apologize, I've got a couple of images that showed up before. They worked at 11 o'clock and they're not working now. This image up here was of a beautiful front door. So what's your front door look like? I don't know how often as owners that you actually walk in your front door. If you live in the property, you might come down a staircase, so maybe you don't go out your front door. I realize you may not have guests coming anytime soon because of your state requirements, so you might not have freshly planted potted plants and flowers and things out there. But now's the time to shine the hardware, to do the paint touch up, and make sure that first impression is so important. When guests walk in the door, what are they going to hear? What kind of soothing music can you play? What will they smell? Will they smell those wonderful cookies and things that are wonderful when you walk in that make you feel like, oh gosh, this was a good choice. This is where I want to be. The next thing is one of the most important things. Gosh, so many of us have repeat guests, and the first thing we want to do with some of those is they become our friends, and we adore them and we want to hug them. Well, guess what? We're not hugging. So look at that picture there. I want to put a big red X to that. We're not shaking hands with those we don't know. So what are you going to do? What's that going to look like? It's going to be awkward the first time. So think about what you're going to do. How are you going to greet somebody so that it's casual, it's practice, it's welcoming? Think about that. What are you now going to show your returning guest when they come to the property? We love returning guests because they all know where to go and what to do. But you've probably changed some things, and it's a good time to think about what that message is and how you're going to communicate that to them. What have you changed? How do you show them that you're truly caring about what you're offering and why they're getting away? So think about all that. It's a really good time to try to walk through and imagine arriving at your property and all those things that you can't do in the same way. Next, what's going to happen to your food and beverage offering? Those of you, I used to have the cookie jar, and yes, there were tongs there, but people took the top off and they got a cookie. I don't know that that's what we're going to do. Do you put out a picture of a beverage in the afternoon? How are you going to handle this? What are we doing with this? These are the things that, unless you're open, we don't have this in place right now. So what are you going to do? How do we change this? I'm not trying to suggest all the solutions. You have to find the solution that's going to work for you and to think about all that. Even more important, what are you going to do in your guest rooms? So many of you have a snack basket in your guest room, and it's got some fresh fruit, it's got baked goods. What's that? How does that work right now? If I walk in and see that, do I know that it's sanitized? Has that fruit been touched by anybody? What happens when a guest checks out and they don't take everything? So maybe what you want to do is make little goodie bags for everybody that's personal. It's got a ribbon closing it, it's got a name on it, a tag on it, and you've written a personal note to them with their name. Maybe the idea is they can take it with them when they leave. Think about what you're going to do with that if you want to give them a goodie, and what do you do? Because I don't want to question afterwards. I mean, I hate to think we have to throw all that stuff away if it's packaged, but how do you sanitize it? What do you do with that? It's perplexing. So think about if you're walking in that room, all those things you don't want to worry about. What are you going to do with in-room beverages? What happens when a guest leaves with that? So there's so many things that we've never had to tackle before. So I just hope this helps you think about, what are you going to do? What are you going to do? And then if we go to the, a little bit more, certainly the dining room, we've been talking about this. Many of you have dining rooms that look like this one on the right with lots of people in it. They're all drinking beer, which is probably what we need to do right now at breakfast time. But I know this has been on your mind. This is the physical thing of, are there areas that we can move tables into? Do we even have tables other than a big dining room table? What are we going to do? Can you serve breakfast at a staggered time? Can you deliver en suite? These are these things now that it's time to think about, because for some of you who are able to reopen fairly quickly, you need to consider what you're going to do.
Like half hearing it, so I'm going, what the hell are you guys doing over here?
Sorry, and give me a second. I'm going to meet some people right now. Yeah. So think about all this as far as what needs to change. And I want you to, because we haven't had to practice this right now. We've been working on cleanliness. Most of you have been working on paperwork, trying to get all that done. But now as you're getting ready to reopen, you might have to buy some different things. You certainly have to think a little bit differently about your offering. So I hope you'll work on that. And then this is my last slide I want to share, is I really encourage now that you need to rewrite your procedures, but do it together. This might be you and your partner, you and your spouse if you're a small inn, but it could be a time that you're going to call in your team. You're going to call in the people who do any of your front of the house activities, the people who are in the rooms, and they're your guest service people doing housekeeping. I think it's really important that you talk about this together. It's important that everyone does it the same way. Dirk referred to that in his earlier presentation. You create some new checklists, but most importantly, that everyone has the same buy-in, that everyone agrees why we're doing this and that this is important, and we all do it consistently in the same way. Dirk talked about walking in the room and cleaning from the left. I'm used to, top to bottom, left to right, and getting this automatic and thinking about the things that when we walk into a room and the guest has used it, now what do we do with everything? What are we dealing with laundry? So it's time to practice this. I do think it's time to really sit down and call that meeting and work together on what's that look like now? It's different, it's changed, and it needs to be. And then I think also it's absolutely okay to be visible to your guests when you're cleaning. There are certain things that I think will reassure them to see you cleaning doorknobs, to cleaning the front doorknob, wiping down some surfaces in common areas. I think that's perfectly fine. And we used to try to do all that when they were out of the inn. So I'm not saying always run around with something in your hand that's a spray bottle, but think about what you need to do so your guests are really comfortable. The last section of this page, and by the way, this whole presentation Eric has, and he will be downloading it on the site, so you'll be able to print all this and have this, but I wanted to give you some great sources. So the AHLA, American Hotel and Lodging, has published their Safe Stay Guidelines, which is a very good list of things. If you're interested in a chemical-free method for sanitizing, Gersano's got a very innovative system that is chemical free. There's a property in California who's been using this since they opened. I have a property, it's a client in the Chesapeake Bay area that's just bought this. It's been bought by all the hospitals in Wuhan, China, after the outbreak of coronavirus. Airports use it, colleges use it. It's pretty cost effective considering what you can do with it. And it's been proven to knock out 99.9% of the 99.5 in their recent publication of the viruses. So take a peek. There's the link to the website, and take a peek at that. Also, I'll be doing, they're going to be a guest of mine at a webinar that I'm doing next Thursday, and they're going to be talking about their system. I don't know if any of you work with Pineapple Hospitality, but Ray Berger's added a page to his website that he's got face masks, he's got disposable ones, he's got reusable ones, all different kinds of things. He's got the thermometers, he's got individual kind of sanitizers. So maybe you want to put a welcome kit together for some of your guests who might not be coming with some of the things that you think they should. So you're able to buy from him with your special pricing as a lodging property, and work with Pineapple Hospitality on those items. And then T2 Site has some sanitizing wipe dispensers that are attractive. Some are large, some are medium size. But I just wanted to share some sources that you might not know of for a few different things. So with that, I'm going to open it up for questions. I'm going to unmute everybody, and please either ask questions or go ahead and type something in if you want, if you don't have a mic, and we'll see what we can do to discuss what's going on with your property and how we can help. Thank you all. So any questions? Frank, I'm going to ask you, how are you changing things at your property? Calling on you, buddy.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay. We haven't changed much, except we're just cleaning more. So,
Okay.
and all of my staff is laid off. But other than that, I'm actually getting guests. So I have 2 coming tonight and another tomorrow, and for multiple days. I'm getting people that
Good.
want to stay away from the mainstream. So
That's good. So what are you changing about breakfast?
believe it or not, many of the past guests haven't wanted breakfast.
Okay. That was the question in my earlier session, was about breakfast. And I know Kara's also commented here about outdoor seating for breakfast. So I think we're so fortunate that we're going into a warmer climate that we do have a chance to take spaces. I mean, your front porch, you can take people could have breakfast there. So there's lots of options that you could, offer to your guests and see what they want.
And I do have the ability to seat people in different places, so that's not a problem.
That's good. That's good. Kathy's asking a question too, are you guys seeing variables among your states? I mean, Frank and I know that from county to county, he and I are in 2 different counties, and we used to see health department restrictions were even different county to county. So I'd be curious if any of you are seeing any restrictions that are coming yet from your health department. I haven't seen any communication here from the health department. Has anybody?
None.
Okay.
Nope.
Todd, can you chime in from Kentucky and tell us what's going on in Kentucky? Todd, are you there? I see you signed in. Or Dan, you want to give us a heads up of what's going on out in your area? Some of you are muted. There's Dan.
Yeah,
Dan?
in Santa Fe, can you hear me?
I can hear you, Dan. Thanks for chiming in.
Sure, Santa Fe, New Mexico, we are considered essential. I've been open throughout.
Oh gosh.
Currently at 25% occupancy limitation, which it hasn't been a problem. But by next week, even though it's a scheduled phased opening, hotel lodging is available to operate at 100% with specific safeguards. We are implementing masks for all staff. Of course, cleaning, we're leaving rooms unoccupied for 3 days post-visit. As long as occupancy will continue to allow us to. So we're getting some things, and mostly people looking for a safe space.
Good. Can all of you hear what Dan was offering? He was talking about a 3-day gap between stays and the fact that his state is allowing them to open, coming up fully open. So some good changes there. Todd, I see that you unmuted yourself. So did you want to give me an update of what you're doing in Kentucky? Okay, I won't call on Todd. Who else can chime in? I see William out in Oklahoma. Any update on Oklahoma? I read about you guys in the news a little bit.
I literally just got in here with a different device. Tell me what the full question was.
I was just curious what you're seeing in either your county or your state as far as maybe restrictions coming from the health department, or what you're doing to modify either breakfast or guest check-in, or just, share a little bit of what you're doing. Because I know you've had some guests because you have some cottages too.
Correct. Okay. So, yeah, we have 9 rooms in the main inn that have been closed since the beginning of this. We have not allowed anybody into the main building, but we do have 6 cottages that we have allowed guests in. They have to call. We go through quite a process of check-in with them. We talk to them on the phone before they show up. We tell them all our new policies, and then we tell them to meet us in the driveway, and we go over those policies again. Basically, delivering breakfast in to-go containers, providing trash bags for them for all of their trash, because we're not coming back in those rooms at all for at least 3 days after they check out. So in doing so, so if they're there for multiple days, we're not coming in to make up their bed or empty their trash. So they put their trash on the porches. And then when they leave, they need to hang up all of their linens that they used. So once again, we're not going back in there for 3 days. Really relaxed our cancellation policies, basically almost carte blanche. You know, you can cancel at any time.
You did create a new checklist for all your.
We are doing a 24-hour cancellation policy. If you're within 24 hours of your stay and you cancel, we're going to go ahead. We don't take deposits, so we go ahead and charge for that amount that protects us, but we also issue them a gift certificate or a voucher to come back and stay. So they're still getting value. It's just totally being open with the change in the climate right now with anything that might be going on. So.
Are you getting any pushback with anything you're doing, or are guests just happy that you can accommodate them and they're happy to do whatever you're asking?
Absolutely. There's no pushback whatsoever. They totally understand. They're just ready to get out and see 4 walls. That is not their 4 walls. Our town is just opened up its restaurants, most restaurants, not all, but most, as far as dining, but they're all, you know, doing the social distancing and everything like that. So, you know, movie theaters aren't open yet, bowling alleys aren't open yet. So not a lot of availability for entertainment, but as far as that is concerned, definitely not casinos or anything like that, but there's still plenty of things to do. And, once again, they're just thrilled to get out from underneath what they've been under. So.
Good. William, I've got one more question for you. Kara has asked about, what are you putting in a to-go breakfast? You said that you're doing to-go containers. So what are you putting in there that then travels, you know, to their room okay, and that they can eat and enjoy? Your breakfasts are wonderful. I've sat at your table, so.
Well, I tell everybody that this is not our normal, usual level of hospitality. And so it's not something that I like, but this is what we're doing right now. And everybody is totally understandable. We're providing plastic ware. We have plastic ware.
Clamshells? Are you using the clamshells?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, they're clamshells. It's a full breakfast. It's fruit and an entree and then a side. If it's syrup, I've got little souffle cups that are to-go cups that you put, you know, a little lid on and take it over there. Butter, same way. You know, we have butter containers or individual butters that those go over. I have a specific time ahead of time, so that's a little bit different. Normally we have a window in to serve breakfast and they call me in when they're ready for breakfast. Now we decide a specific time to serve breakfast, and I deliver, knock on the door and leave it. And I tell them I'm leaving it on your porch. And so far everybody's been extremely happy.
Good. All right, well, I hope sharing what William's doing is helpful to everybody, because some of you aren't open, but since he's accepting guests, he's in this real-time mode that I was getting to, is he's having to do this, and that's what's important right now. Some of us are still speculating what we're going to do.
Well, but they'll resend it. Anything you
there was another question about, can you ask guests to bring their own mask? I certainly think you can. I think you can suggest it. If you're going to require it, then I think you have to be prepared to have some masks that you can offer to them. And again, I know Pineapple Hospitality has disposable masks. If you wanted to be able to have some things that you could offer. So just think about that. So what other questions? What else can we help you with today? Anyone else want to share?
This is time.
All right, well, this presentation will be available to be downloaded.
No, unfortunately.
It is a checkoff list. And if I can meet some people. Anyway, but I'm happy to reach out to me. Let me go to my last slide. And if there's anything that I can do for you, any questions that I can answer, anything like that, please certainly reach out. Kara's asking, is anyone doing outdoor sanitizer dispensers? That last product offering that I mentioned is a company that you can put, you know, a dispenser in. But is anyone doing that? If you can either chime in or put a note in the chat box. Kara's got a question about that.
Maybe they can do the front door.
All right. Any other questions? Frank, nice to see you too. Nice to see all of you. I can't see everybody, but I can hear everybody. So.
Staples is supposed to have done already weeks ago. So.
All right. Well, I would love any update, and I'm here. I'll start again this presentation this conversation at 3 o'clock, and so. Yeah, Kara's commenting, did you guys see in the chat box, the reason she's thinking about outdoor sanitizers is they do have a large ranch, Wilson Ranches. So they're concerned because there's probably a lot of different entrances that people are coming in. And, how do they control that as far as what people are doing with sanitizing? But there's so much to think about. Not that we were ever bored as innkeepers, but now we even have more things to challenge ourselves with.
Walking off they can only use their own then.
Right.
But the people upstairs.
All right, thank you all.
Well, there's the front door, or else they come downstairs and they.
Thank you, Linda.
Thank you, William. Wish I could come to Oklahoma.
Yeah, come on. Weather's great. It's about 72, 73 out. It's beautiful. It's not hot yet.
All right. Well, give a hug to your mother, please.
Will do.
I guess you can hug your mom. I hope you can.
I have been able to hug my mom, but she has not been at the inn but one time in about a month and a half. So
yeah, many of you, if you've been in the innkeeping business for a long time, Phyllis Murray, which is William's mom. So, hi, Deanna. Yeah. It's nice to see you. She was on. So, yeah, so good. All right. Well, thank you all. I hope this has been a good day for everybody. I'm a former innkeeper. My husband and I moved from Miami. We moved up to the mountains of Virginia and we built Inn at Riverbend, a 7-room inn. We also bought a restaurant in town or old bank building and converted it to a restaurant. So I've been on the restaurant side and the inside. We sold our inn in 2010. We operated our restaurant and then ourselves for 5 years and sold it in 2015. But I've been doing operational consulting work for the last 10 years. So I spend a lot of time traveling while I don't have an inn. In the last 2 years, I've been in 18 states, 3 countries, and 62 properties. So I sleep in your beds, I see your rooms, you check me in as a guest, and I observe a lot of different things. So today, what I wanted to do was certainly take a lot of the commentary that's been coming along today that talks about some of the things we need to do and help you get ready for what you have to do and to help you with some of those exercises. So the first thing we want to talk about is 4 practical exercises today. I'm going to talk about your visuals. How are you communicating that you're ready? What's your arrival process and how's it changing? What are you doing about your food and beverage offering? And then again, with your staff or with your partner, your spouse, how are you making sure that you're doing things the same way and you've identified your best practices? So with that, I wanted to share a couple of visuals because right now, if I were booking a getaway, if I wanted to leave the mountains of Virginia and go somewhere, I would be looking at a website that I could see clearly communicates what's going on. It would clearly tell me that you're open or you're not, or when you're taking reservations. So Laurel Oak just got permission in Gainesville, Florida to open at a 25% capacity. So this is what they posted on Facebook yesterday, and then you can see what they have on their website. So it makes it very clear as to what their situation is. So I hope all of you have something on your website. It might be a pop-up that shows up in the middle of the landing page that says, here's our situation and what we're doing, that we're taking future reservations for these dates. But if I don't see anything, then it makes me think you're tone deaf to what's going on and it's not important that you're communicating. Are your photos current? We've been hearing it's finally time to get rid of the decorative pillows and the quilts and the other layers that would make us all a little nervous about cleanliness. And I realize it's not a great time. None of us have the cash flow to hire photographers right now to bring them in. But either communicate a cleaning policy as your COVID-19 statement, or maybe you can take some of your own photos and show some examples of what's going on, but somehow explain that things have changed, that you recognize you had to make some changes at your property. And then I hope it's at the top of your list, because there's lots of properties that I wouldn't book based on what I'm seeing and how they're showing their rooms. There's too many layers of things on the beds. The next thing is, look at the bottom of your website. This is an actual bottom of the website of someone that I know, and a client who has recently bought this property, and they're redoing their site. But is your TripAdvisor badge current? You know, are you still showing a bedandbreakfast.com diamond collection? Do you know where that links? If you're not a member of Expedia, it certainly isn't going to anything that's about your property. If you're here as ALP, a member on this, spending the day with us today, maybe you show your affiliation. If so, do you have the current logo? So we've been sending that out in the newsletter, so certainly you can grab that and change that. But if this information's not accurate, it doesn't make me think that you care about your property. It makes me think, again, that you're not tuned into the details. And the analogy I always use is, if you get on the plane and you lower the tray table and it's dirty, what do you think about the engine? So look at these kinds of things, because before someone's even going to click off and go to make a reservation, they're looking at your front page. They're looking at what you're saying. They're looking at all your visuals to say, is this where I want to stay? And you should be able to look at this yourself, because if you wanted to go somewhere, where would you go? And what are you looking for as indicators? So I hope you'll take this seriously. Next, what's the arrival process going to look like? And I apologize, I have a couple of bitches that were perfect this morning and then they've not downloaded. So your first impressions, look at your outside appearance. I realize you might not be open. Williams open right now in Oklahoma, and other properties are getting ready to open. Santa Fe, Dan just a minute ago said that he was open in Santa Fe. So what's your front door look like? Is your hardware shiny? Is the paint fresh? Is the walkway clean? What are guests going to smell and hear when they walk in? You know, will you have some soothing music that will help them relax and take the edge off the fact that they've picked your property for the first stay that they're coming to? So think about all those things. Think about your greeting. That image on the bottom right, I don't think is what we're going to be doing. If those that we normally, you know, we're meeting for the first time, we would shake hands with, I don't think that's what we're going to do. And I doubt right now that we're going to hug people, which is heartbreaking. We usually hug people when they leave, and it's probably not in our best practices. So figure out what you're going to do. I think it takes walking to the door and welcoming a guest, or welcoming, you know, someone, if you're not open, welcoming, you know, your spouse or your partner, and figure out what that's going to look like so it's not awkward. My daughter surprised me for my birthday to come up from Charlotte, and we didn't hug, and it was the strangest thing of, what do I do with my hands? I want to hug her. And it was really weird. So it's time to practice these things now and think about it. The other thing is, what's your welcome tour going to be? You know, we love those guests who come back to our inns time and time again because they know their way around. Maybe you've changed some things. Maybe the arrival area has some different changes. Maybe check-in is different. Maybe the beverage bar they're used to going to is a little bit different. So think about what you're going to change. So I encourage you to go to the front door of your inn and walk in as though you're a guest, and think about, what do you want to show that person and what's going to be different this time. And then if you think about your food and beverage, that endless cookie jar that many of us love to fill with wonderful cookies. While we had one and it had tongs, a lot of times people just took the lid off and they grabbed a cookie. I don't think we're going to do this. So what are you going to do here? Are you offering fresh baked cookies? Do they help themselves? I don't think so. Are you putting out a pitcher of beverages? Are you pouring it and offering it to somebody? What are we doing? I'm certainly not telling you that I have all the answers, but I'm just wanting you to think about this, because if you're not open, we haven't had to practice this yet. We haven't had to do this. The other thing is, many of you have wonderful little goodies or snack baskets or things like that in the guest room. What is that going to look like now? Because if a guest only took part of it, did they touch everything? What do you do with it? Do you throw it away? Can you sanitize it? I think what you might do is, if you're going to give the guests something that you want them to enjoy during your stay, that you individually package that in a bag with a handle maybe that's got a ribbon tie on it. It's got a handwritten note to them. It has their name on it, and you clearly want them to take it with them. I don't think we want to be dealing with, do I wash the apple? Do I What do I do with the orange? Do I throw it all away? What do I do? If you want them to enjoy it, then I think prepare it as such and offer that. Think about in-room beverages, coffee, tea, bottled water. What are you doing with all that? Does anything there need to modify? Just lots of things to think about. And I know for the early part of this month, everyone's been working on it in April. Certainly the priority was, oh my gosh, let me get my paperwork in. Let me think about what else I need to change for my inn. When am I possibly going to open? But now it's really time to start thinking about some of these things and what you're going to be doing. And then that dining room. Certainly we've all been talking about the dining room. And so is this what your dining room looks like on the right? I think we all need a bottle of beer at breakfast, but do you have a community table? Or now can you go ahead and take advantages of areas, especially because the weather should be nice as you're reopening. Can you serve on the porch? Can you serve on a patio? Can you serve in the guest room? Can you maybe take a table that might have been a puzzle table in a library or in a living room and now convert that as a suitable area for breakfast? So think about all those different ways, because for many of us, we can't necessarily afford to go change our big dining room table, but do you need to then offer different times for breakfast? Some people are talking about they might not even offer breakfast at all. They might do coffee in a continental. They might bring something to the room that's simple. They might partner with a local restaurant. I have a property that partners with a restaurant across the street that they can get breakfast to go there, or they can sit outside. So just lots and lots and lots of things to think about. So I'm hoping when we open up for dialogue that you guys will all share some of what you're doing to modify the things you're thinking about. And then here's the last exercise I hope you'll look at. I really think it's important that you actually get together with all your team members. You may be a very small property. It might just be you and your partner, you and your spouse. But if you have more members on your team, it's a really good time to call everybody in. I realize many of them are laid off and furloughed, but they're going to come back to work hopefully sometime soon. And as you now think about, we have to make changes and we have to get ready, because in some cases you're opening up part way, you're opening up, you know, in the case of New Mexico, it sounds like they're going to be able to open 100%. Then what are these new checklists? What are these new guidelines? How are we taking some of the suggestions that Dirk made about cleaning? What are we doing? What is our new timelines for everything? I think it's really important to do this together, because then all of you are agreeing on what is the purpose of what we're doing. We've agreed this is important. We're all doing it the same way, so that there's none of that shortcutting of something that is so important. I also think it's fine for you to be present at times when your guests are around and they see you cleaning. I think it shows how much you care. It shows that you're checking doorknobs, other surfaces that may be in common areas that everyone's touching, and that you're cleaning those on a regular basis. So where we used to try to be out of sight, out of mind when the guests are around, probably now's not the time to do that, and it's fine for them to see you. The last section I wanted to share with you are some very important sources that you might not know about. Certainly AH and LA have just published their safe stay guidelines. Those are really nice ones that you can print and look at. So I've given you the link. If you're looking for a chemical-free method of sanitizing, Trisano is a lovely product. It was purchased a month ago. Much of it for the Wuhan hospitals in China, which is where a lot of this coronavirus started. It's also used by a number of colleges, airports, things like that. But the Francis House in Calistoga installed this system when they opened up their property 2.5 years ago. Great Oak Manor in Chesapeake Bay has just ordered this for their property. So I've given you a link on this, and also I'm going to be doing a webinar and inviting them to join me next week to present their product. Next Thursday at 2 o'clock, they'll be joining me. So if you're interested in hearing more and you want to join that, just email me and let me know. I don't know if any of you have worked with Ray Berger at Pineapple Hospitality, but he's got a great new page they added to their website, and they do have sourcing available right now for face masks. Many of them are either reusable or disposable. So if you're putting together a packet that you might give to your guest that might have a small little hand sanitizer, might have gloves, might have a face mask, they certainly have all that available to you that you can set up a wholesale account and buy those things. They also have the infrared thermometers. So I've had many inquiries about where do I find these things. Lastly is T2 Site Amenities is a source for some of the sanitizing dispensers that you might want at your property. So it's one where they have them in different sizes. I know Kara's still on and she has Wilson Ranches and they have different entries for their property, and maybe they want to have a freestanding sanitizing wipe dispenser that is nice looking, that people can grab one of those and know that they can clean their hands. So just some different sources for things. If there's something else you're looking for, please reach out to me. I am continually sourcing things for clients and putting checklists and other things together, and I'm happy to share anything I can with you. So at this point, I'm going to open up everything and unmute everybody. So if you've got some questions, you can certainly pose it, either write it or ask the question, and we'll try to see if we can have a little dialogue here with everybody as we end our day on this session, and just try to answer anyone's questions. So I am trying to unmute everybody. You can unmute yourself also if you want, but please let us know, so anything that anyone wants to share, or there are some questions that you want to post that you'd like the group to talk about, now's the time. I don't see anything coming up new in the chat box. We did have some other comments before talking about breakfast being done in different places, certainly outdoors being good. People taking an outdoor kitchen, which was interesting. Kara talked about at the ranches, they might take their outdoor kitchen and make that the breakfast service area, which would feel very lovely, like a seasonal thing. So much of this is depending on what your states are allowing you to do. We certainly see that with health departments. We see differences within the states. So, all right, I'm here. Yes.
Yeah.
Anyone have a question?
Yeah, this is Bella Clean Bed and Breakfast. One thing that we were instigating is a checklist for us and our housekeeping. Like we have one restroom that multiple guests can actually use, and on the door where we'll initial and say it's been sanitized.
Great.
So we'll the date and have that actually in different places in the house. So as guests return from doing whatever they've been doing for the day, when they come back, they know that an hour before they got back, the innkeeper went around and sanitized everything. And it just gives them an additional reassurance.
Yeah, that's a great idea. And certainly we've seen that in airports. We see that in the grocery store bathroom, and we probably always thought that was institutional, but it does communicate cleanliness and attention to detail.
Yes.
Yeah, that's what people are really looking for right now.
What other ideas?
Well, you got the touchless.
Oh, well, yeah, we purchased touchless hand sanitizer and soap dispensers for each of the guest rooms.
Oh, great. Okay. And what vendor did you buy those from?
Well, they haven't arrived yet. I actually got it from Amazon, but now they had indicated that it's coming by China Post. So they're coming from China, but they're supposed to arrive by the middle to the end of the month, which is as soon as we would probably even be able to open. So
where are you located? When do you have to open?
We're in Oregon, and they say that lodging is in the second phase, and we really haven't even launched fully the first phase.
Oh,
so
gosh. Okay.
Probably the end of the month, beginning of next month.
Okay, good, good. All right, well, thanks for sharing some of those ideas. We appreciate that.
Thank you, Linda.
All right, what else? What else can we help with? These are, you know, as we say, uncharted waters for everybody. Oh, thoughts, Kara just asked about getting sanitizer from distilleries. I know on the first session, we were hearing from Donna Kohler, who was talking about one of their distilleries in their area is now selling sanitizer for $40 a gallon. So we certainly are seeing some of those. Here's another question coming up about what about evening wine and social hours? What is everyone doing on that? Is anyone getting creative there? How are you going to offer that? I know I have a client who does a charcuterie board. So what they're going to be doing them in a much smaller way, so they're individual and offered per guest. So it's not a shared charcuterie platter. and they'll still be having a gathering time, but it will be, you know, open air outside on their patios and things with a lot of social distancing. We certainly have seen bonfires be important. It's kind of easy to social distance with those, so those have been good to do. But can anyone else comment about if they do a social hour, what they're doing or how they're modifying that?
Well, we're doing basically the same thing. All of our guest suites have decks and patios, so we are basically going to give them a little thing of wine and a little bit of cheese and crackers, and we all meet out onto their patios, and we kind of social distancing and social with them there. So, because we love that hour, that's our favorite thing.
We'll be out in the yard below their deck or off of their patio.
So this feels like Italy, where everyone's talking from the balcony. You could break into song.
We are located right in the middle of wine country, so it's a great place.
So nice.
Everyone comes here and they love to drink the wine, so
sure,
you can't stop that amenity.
No, and that's very much needed now. So you could probably up your rates and offer full bottles. So so things like that with some great ideas. So. All right, well, if anyone wants to share anything else, we're about out of time. I know there's other sessions going on this afternoon, but thank you. And please feel free to reach out to me if there's any more information I can provide for you, if you need any help on anything. And just, I wish everyone really the best with reopening and getting through all this. And I'm just glad you're still hanging in there. It's been crazy times, but we'll get through this together. So anyway, thank you for dropping into my virtual marketplace. It's been lovely to have all of you, and I hope to, if I haven't met some of you I've certainly traded emails with and talked to, but hope that we can connect again. Okay?
Thank you
all.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you all.